All right. Hello, everyone who's joining us. Thank you so much. We are gonna, people will be sort of joining as the webinar moves along, but I think we'll go ahead and get started. So yeah, thank you so much again for joining this webinar. The idea really is to show you, how easy it is to take that first step into the world of entrepreneurship, become a community leader for Techstars, and really begin to develop your own ecosystems. So we're really excited today to have you all here and to go over, some of the biggest obstacles that you may face. We have two fantastic all-stars who have a lot of experience here to give you their insights, and also learn, what are the first steps I would need to take to become a community leader for Techstars. All right, so we'll go on to the next slide here, Preta. Perfect.
Great. Yeah, let's wait one more minute just to people can come and we can admit them. But thank you, Nick.
Of course.
So, yeah. Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to have you here for our first webinar of 2023 to talk about the best practices becoming a new organizing. I will introduce myself. I'm regional manager from Brazil for the last 6 years. I'm based in São Paulo City. Please put in the chat where you speak from. And also I'm regional manager for Americas, covering maternity leave from Ellie, who is also here in our team, my colleague and community friend. And I'm part of the Startup Weekend community for the last 9 years and facilitating the last 7 years. Here with me is my colleague Nick and friend who also say some words, but he will introduce himself as well. And also Ahmad from EMEA, who work with Soraya as well. But please, Nick and Ahmad, introduce yourself first.
Awesome. Thanks, Preta. Yeah, so my name is Nick. I'm originally from California, but I've been living in South America for the past 11 years. I'm in Santiago, Chile, and my role is a customer success coordinator. So I work with all of our local organizers, helping them get started with their startup weeks and startup weekends. So me and my colleague Sarawi are generally the first point of communication for all of our new organizers. So I'm very excited to have the potential to work with you all. Ahmad, I'll let you take it from here.
Yeah, thank you so much. Hello, everyone. This is Ahmad. I'm the regional manager for EMEA region. Been working for Techstars in the past 7 years. In my job, I make sure that all of you as a community leaders, you have all the tools and resources you need to empower their local ecosystem and make sure that we're putting the Techstars network and your support for your community. I'm happy to be here with you today to discuss more about your community, the jury, and how we can all of us get together to build an ecosystem. Thanks.
Cool. Today we also have Techstars, our stars community leaders with us. They will be the main people that will share the experience and of best practices for running a successful startup weekend, and they will be introduce themselves soon. Just giving back the topics that we're gonna discuss here. So the main topics that we see as an opportunity to know becoming first organizing for a startup weekend, that you should be paying attention. So this is gonna be the topics that Julian and Leila will talk about. But before that, I will pass again for Ahmad to explain a little bit about Techstars and Startup Weekend.
Yeah, sure. Well, for people who's new here, just to give you a little bit background about who's Techstars, what Startup Weekend is, and this people talking about. So in Techstars, we are worldwide networks. We help entrepreneurs succeed. We believe that entrepreneurship, it's not tied to any locations. Entrepreneurship can be located in any place in the world, around the world. And our job is to empower those entrepreneurs from all the stages, from inspiration to IPO. And this comes mostly through a lot of programs that we provide, the pre-accelerator programs. That include the Startup Weekend, Startup Week, Founder Catalyst, and also an accelerator program and VC funds that mostly invest at the moment internally in-house. In our product, Startup Weekend, it's a 3 days event that gather people with an idea and try to help them by validating these ideas, matching with the co-founders, supporting them throughout the way with the mentorship and aligning them with some content training to move these ideas into a business and successful businesses. Just if you got a slide before, this is a global networks. And what I like about this is not just the numbers for us. Every single number of this is behind it. A lot of people coming together to support and empower the local communities. Up to date, we had 8,000 Startup Weekend event in 750 cities, 172 countries. There's more Startup Weekend events than Starbucks and McDonald's around the world. So whenever we travel somewhere, there is someone else in this part of the community. And we're happy now to extend our families and bring you all of you in this program to support and participate by hosting Startup Weekend or probably Startup Week to get you in your community. So and this today talk will go more deeper into Techstars, into the Startup Weekends, and leave that probably more for the Q&A as well. Or maybe in the slide, if you stop here, but I can also like go deeper into the Startup Weekend. As I talked, like Startup Weekend is a 54 hours event, help people with match with co-founder and turn those ideas into an actual startups. And how this happens. So mostly in a day, it happens more vertical ways, not just by content, but learn by doing. So in the first day, people comes to the event, they pitch an idea for 1 minute. People vote for this ideas. So we kind of use the wisdom of the crowd to select the best ideas related to the community. And those people later have to form their own team. They become a team of 5 or 7 people to sit together in a space and continue working nonstop for 54 hours event. And the next day, they have to go validate their ideas, talk to customers, meet with the mentors, participate and engage in building the product itself, all with the team to get it ready for the final and last day. And the last day, after getting the mentorship and the support, there's a pitch day. It's a demo day forum where people can be pitching their startups, pitching their ideas in front of the judges who will there start to ask us some questions to learn more about the ideas, and many of the time select the top 3 winners. Those winners just to get a little bit more support from the community. But for me and for us in Techstars, and Startup Weekend, all of those people who participated in the programs are winners. We can walk and show you also a lot of examples of successful startups who participated in a Startup Weekend before and turn out to be, I think this is maybe the next slide. If you can move on that. There's some example of people who joined in the Startup Weekend and then turned up to be successful companies. So it's a proven concept model for the event. We'll go deeper into that with our All-Stars. So back to you, Britta. Thanks.
Thank you. We will show the startup that came from Startup Weekend, and then so Nick, would you like to go through and pass to our All-Stars after?
Sure. Yeah, I'm sure you've been wondering who these lovely people are who have been sitting with us, but now is the time for them to introduce themselves. So yeah, Julian, I will pass the mic over to you and love to get to know you.
Hi, everybody. Hope you can hear me right. Yes. My name's Julian. I'm an iOS developer based in San Diego. You can see some other information on there. I do look like somebody else, so I'll use that picture. And I'd say I went to my first Startup Weekend back in 2009 as a participant. Had an amazing experience. I had to actually fly to a different city to go to the event. And so I decided to then organize an event down here in San Diego. Loved that, had a great experience with that. And after organizing a few other events, began facilitating and helping other events in other cities. So I am very enthusiastic about helping organizers and facilitators run awesome events. And I'll pass it over to Layla.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I hope you can hear me okay. Yeah. So
Yes.
I'm Layla. Thank you. I'm based in Dublin, Ireland, and it's sunny today, so everybody's out. I can't wait to go out also after the call. And I'm from Tanzania originally, and I attended my first startup weekend back in 2019. So I'm kind of newbie, and I hosted my first one in 2020 in Dar es Salaam online. And then so far I've been hosting 5 of them, and I'm enjoying the process. I'm learning a lot. So it's been a great learning curve for me. And I love traveling. I've been in so many countries and over 60 something cities, and I can't wait to do more. And I'm looking forward to the session. Thank you.
Fantastic.
So,
Yeah.
go ahead, Nick.
Well, Julian, I was going to say, now our all-stars are going to take us through some of their most important tips for some of the biggest hurdles they'll take. So Julian, please go ahead.
Yeah, I want to start off by saying, first of all, for all the topics we're going to discuss, there is a great online guide provided by TechStars for how to organize an event, and you definitely should refer to that. There's tons of great information there. I tend to forget about that to the week before the event, and then realize there's this wealth of information I could have been using the entire time. So definitely look at that. But our first topic is about the team and finding an organizing team to help you execute the event. My general rule of thumb for this is that I want to talk to perhaps 20 people to be on my team. From that, I'll generally find 20 people might give me a soft yes, but 10 people actually mean it. So now I'm on 10 people, and of those 10 people, 5 will actually commit to doing some hard lifting, heavy labor work for the event, and 5 are just kind of there to help put up some signs or something like that. So that gets me to my 5 people. And then what you definitely want is one person who can be your right-hand person, who can be there to be just an incredible resource for you. And when you're having a down day, they're having an up day, and be your partner in making. So that's my general rule of thumb for approaching an event. The other thing I want to note about building a team for your event is that the diversity of your organizing team will often reflect the diversity of the event itself. So make sure that when you're pulling together that organizing team, that you pull from very different communities, so that you can have a very inclusive event, which is part of the core values for TechStars. And then final note on team. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead first, finish up. And I'll
Okay, yeah.
on.
The final note I want to say that is when you're doing that, your team, make sure you have somebody there who you think could be a future leader for an event, so that you can have an event that continues on year after year after year. You want to start thinking about the future for your event as well. But Layla.
Yeah, for me, I like a small team. I like to run a tight ship. So the first my main person will be the one that leading the event full on, and then we'll have 3 more people, help out. And then during the weekend, I'll reach out to my content before the weekend, to have more people during the weekend. But the organizing team, I like a very small team, because at the end of the day, it's very few people ended up, putting more work on it. So, don't be afraid if you only have 2 or 3 people on your team. You can carry the event. Just make sure during the startup weekend events, you have more manpower also to help out in small things, maybe, registration, or make sure everybody knows where they're supposed to be, or somebody to be there to help the attendees in any question they have. Yeah.
Cool. Also, as we're going through these topics, if you have questions about any of the topics, be sure to drop them in the chat, and we'll hopefully pick some of those up at the end. But turning over to our next topic, which is sponsorship. So my general rule of thumb, I think there's a guide as well, but for my events, I'm thinking generally that my budget's going to be around $10,000. That this will change according to location, but of that, 70% of that is going to come from my ticket sales, and then the 30% I'm probably going to get from sponsorship to cover the rest of the cost. So sponsorship becomes part of the important part of executing the event. As I mentioned before, there's a great guide online for sponsorship. One of the useful tips in there is to have sponsorship packages. So when I first approached a sponsor, I just kind of went to a company and said, would you give us money for the event? And they're like, oh no, like you need to like figure out like in exchange for our sponsorship, what do we get in exchange from your event? And so having clear sponsorship packages is super useful. And in the example deck that Techstars provides, they give you some examples of what makes a good sponsorship package. So make sure you look at that. You can customize those packages according to what the potential sponsor wants to get from the event. For a lot of our events, a garden variety, very enthusiastic sponsor tends to be somebody who has a tech platform and they want to get developers using on that platform. And so in exchange to exposing like their SDK or API to developers, they want to sponsor the event. So you want to know what the sponsors are looking for to get out of that. Sometimes the law firms are looking to like get new business, incorporating businesses. So they'll come in and they want that exposure, and in exchange they'll want to sponsor an event. So just knowing what the sponsors want and trying to meet their needs will help you get really good sponsors, and customizing those packages for their needs. The final thing I'll note on that, which isn't quite in the guide, but I think you might want to look into, is looking at potentially asking sponsors to sponsor more than one event. If they're already cutting a check for one event, it might be easier to say, would you like to sponsor our next 2 or 3 events? Since they've already made that decision, you can get that check for the next 3 events. And then when you're organizing the next event, things are so much smoother. So think about that when you're looking at sponsorships.
And also for your first event, try to reach out to your network, because my network really helped me out during my first event. I didn't know who to talk to. And yeah, and it was nice to have somebody that I can reach out to and give the sponsorship deck, even for them to tell me what exactly they want from the event, which they wanted publicity and to be associated with Techstars Startup Weekend, which was good to know what the, a unique selling point for us to when we approach sponsors. So reach out to your network and see who's around your network has raised some fund, who startup has raised some fund, so you know that they have some money for media, and also try to diversify your sponsor. Don't depend on one big sponsor, like Julia already said. Diversify your sponsor. And try also to think outside the box, maybe try to see what way you can cover some costs. Can you, reach out to restaurant or catering service to see if you can have partnership with them so they can, give you maybe half price for the catering, or see if even if a sponsor doesn't have the money to give you the actual money, maybe they can give you their swags, so you can use their swag to, to give it to your attendees if you don't have, a budget for your own swag. So try to be creative in that way, because at the moment, with the economic situation that's going on, sponsorship budget, it's cut is very low for most organizations. So try to be creative. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, I'll totally underline that food thing, by the way. Food is your biggest expense in your budget. So if you can get a food provider or a beverage provider to be a sponsor in the event, that'll really help your bottom line. Moving on to our next topic, which is venue. Venue will be, I think, one of the most time-consuming things to identify. It may take you a few weeks to find the right venue for your event, and that's okay. Just be fully patient with it and just kind of expect that it's going to take you some time to find a venue. In the guide, on the Techstars guide, it has a great checklist of things you want to look at in terms of like what kind of seating is available, what kind of access you have to the venue after hours, since we're on weekends type stuff. You want to look at potentially having also that venue provider be a sponsor for the event and cut down some of the cost of perhaps renting the venue. Usually if we get the right venue provider, we don't have to pay that much for the venue, if anything. But talking to them about the value to them can be a big influence on how much you're going to pay for a venue. In addition to what's in the guide, the biggest tip I'll give on the venue front is to make sure you do an in-depth conversation with them about Wi-Fi. A lot of people say that they've got Wi-Fi available for all the participants, but they've never hosted an event perhaps the size of yours, and so bandwidth becomes a problem when you actually try it out. Also, exploring with them what would happen if the Wi-Fi goes down during the weekend. Is there a person on site or available via phone that you can call and get Wi-Fi back up, because that's really going to affect your event if nobody can get on your net. So exploring that aspect of the venue in depth is super worth it. Layla, did you have tips on venue?
Yes, speaking about Wi-Fi, it happened to us last month. In our event, the Saturday, the Wi-Fi just went off and we were panicking. Thank God we have some workshop in the morning, so it kind of kept the attendees busy while we were trying to fix. And it was very important that we had somebody on site who really helped us to get that sorted. And also, if you can, try to get a sponsorship or partnership for the venue, because that will reduce a lot of costs for you. And reach out to different, start with your network. Like, you can go so far with your network. So reach out to your network who work in what organization, like LinkedIn, HubSpot, Accenture, and see if they can host you. And yeah, so start with your network. You'll be surprised how much you can get from your network. So definitely try to minimize your costs, try to get the venue, a nice venue for free. And also try to make sure that the accessibility of your venue also, so that you can be more diverse with your attendees. And yeah, I think that's it. The next one is ticketing, I think. Yeah, so with tickets, don't panic. Most of the ticket, most people registered before, within 2 weeks before the event. So if you're promoting your events for like 2 months and the ticket sales are so slow, don't freak out, relax. Those 2 weeks, they'll make a lot of difference. Our last event in March, we started promoting it in February, and by March, we were only like 40% of the ticket, and we were like going crazy. I'm like, oh my God, we had 3 more weeks to go. And then before the next 2 weeks, all the ticket was sold out. And by the last week, everybody is asking for ticket when, the ticket was closed. So relax, don't panic. And the best way to get your tickets sold, try to reach out to community partners, have a diverse community partner, so that you have a guarantee that your attendee will be very diverse from different community, and also attend different networking events where your target audience will be, so you'll be able to promote your events and use free PR. Try to get a journalist to write something about your events, will really help promote the events. Reach out to bloggers, or even a radio station or podcast. Try to get into podcasts to promote your events. And also you can organize maybe pre-session a few months before your events to just raise awareness for people to attend, to be aware of what you're working on. And Julie, would you like to add anything else?
Just reminded that I think running a startup weekend is very much like running a startup itself. And what you're going to end up doing with the startup weekend is I totally endorse pitching your startup weekend event at other events that are happening around the city in your community. And so you're going to get really good at making your 3-minute startup weekend pitch to people, like, this is the event, this is the value, this is why you should come, and getting that down to a great elevator pitch will seriously serve your event very well.
Yeah, definitely. And the next one is attendees. Think about, especially when it comes to workshop, think about your attendees. Try to be on their shoes and think about what kind of workshop will add value to them. In our last events, we had a yoga session on Saturday evening because our event was for women, and we knew that women will appreciate yoga. And yeah, so think about what kind of workshop will add value for them, and also onboard them maybe a week before your events, and to start create that sense of community, and for them to start introducing each other and communicate before the startup weekend started. So when the Friday they come in, they already know each other, and it's nice to finally meet them in person, or if the event is online, they can still meet them each other online. And that sense of community is very important. And even you give them the opportunity to ask you questions directly on your WhatsApp channel or on your Slack. And also, one of the best workshop we had in our last event, it wasn't a workshop, it was like a fireside chat. We had a past startup weekend attendee who is a founder of his own startup now, and to have a fireside chat and chat about his journey from startup weekend a few years ago to now. He's a founder, and how the whole journey, the whole impact it was for him to attend a startup weekend, and just so that the attendees will see themselves in that past the speaker, and it motivate them and inspire. And anything else about the attendees would you like to add, Julia?
I'll just go back and reinforce the idea of making the event as diverse and inclusive as possible. That's something that I mentioned that the organizing team can be aware of if they're also a very diverse organizing team. But we've noticed that there can be some bias towards younger people as opposed to being all age inclusive, or certain people from certain socioeconomic situations, or gender or race or whatever. Just making sure that you're looking at that and making sure that how are we going to make sure that this event feels welcoming to everybody.
Yeah, that's so important. And that's why partnering with different community partner will help you, make it easy to reach out to different diverse attendees. And the next one, we have mentors, and how to choose the right mentors for your events. For me, the first thing I do is reach out to my network again. I emphasize network. Your network is your net worth. So do reach out to your network. You have already great resources of people who are willing to give back and spend that Saturday or Sunday and mentor the participants, and make sure your mentors are diverse, not just in gender, also in age, and also it's even in stage, different stage. So from very new founders to very experienced founders to industry experts. And even in our last event, although it was physical in Dublin, we had an online mentoring session. One of the session, we had two mentoring sessions, one on Saturday, which was physical, and on Sunday morning, we had online mentoring session. We wanted to reach global community of mentors to mentor our participants, to just have that different mindset from different people all over the world, which was very important. We had mentor from Tanzania, from US, from South Africa, and it was really great. So try to be diverse with your mentors, and your network is your net worth. Julia, do you have anything to add in this?
I think you got that.
Cool. And the next one, I think.
Great. So facilitators. So one of the great values of organizing an event with Techstars is that they're going to assign a facilitator to your event. And a facilitator, I'm going to put on my facilitator hat right now because I love being a facilitator. And I see my role as facilitator as really helping that organizing team from the time I'm matched with the event through the execution of that event, and being a cheerleader for them, being a coach for them, and really helping them realize the goal of their event through that process. So the what do I want to say? The facilitators, I see my role as facilitator as I will coach them, as I said, And then when I arrive at the city, that's done so much work so far to get that event organized and make that happen. And I'm there to help on the minute to minute of the 3 days of the event to make sure that it all goes super smoothly and everybody is having a great experience. So between the facilitator and the organizers, it's a great partnership to help your event be as successful as possible.
Yeah, I remember my first events, and our facilitator really helped us because we didn't know what we were doing. So he really guided us, like, you know, whatever question we have, if we're struggling, how to get people to register for the event, or how to promote the event, or what kind of workshop to have, or even timetable, what to put in, you know, in the timetable, how to allocate the time. And the facilitator really helped us out to, you know, somebody to be there to ask those questions. And also during the events, you know, it kind of relaxes you, the organizing team, you know, that, you know, the facilitator is there to help, you know, guide the, you know, create the right atmosphere for the weekend, and do the heavy lifting while the team is behind the scene trying to make sure the food is arrive on time, or how many teams they have. And yeah, so facilitator is so important. And the next one, we have unforeseen, different risks to prepare. And for my end, I usually have two budget. The budget we have, if we have, you know, the maximum sponsorship that we are imagining, and the budget we have when we have very little sponsorship, like what kind of cost that we really have to, you know, actual pay that we won't be able to, you know, try to get partners to cover. Yeah, so that kind of help us to know that, you know, if we don't have sponsor, we can still do this, but if we have sponsor, we can still do this. And it kind of relaxes us and know, you know, whatever happened, you know, we can at least make this amount of, you know, you can use this amount of cost or amount of funding to make the event successful. And also to have like maybe to define what your definition of successful events, like what's the minimum number of people you want, and what's the maximum number you want, or the venue will take. And also another thing, diversify your sponsorship. That's very important, so you don't depend on one big sponsor, because if you only depend on one sponsor, when that sponsor lets you down, you know, you're like, you don't have a plan B, and you have to cancel your event. So have a plan B and in place. And also your team, you know, don't be scared if you only have like 2 or 3 people in your team. You can do wonder with that, and then ask for small help from other people. And like, you know, you can ask for in your network, maybe if you want a, you know, somebody who is videographer to cover the event during the weekend. And yeah, to reach out to your mentor. And also think of all the different Julia say about diversity, and think of to have in your team, because it will help you. Sometimes you can, you know, you don't think that maybe, especially for our last event, we knew that our venue was accessible, you know, for somebody with wheelchair, but we didn't think about other diversity people, like the people who are like, maybe they don't like noises too much, or, you know, there's so many spectrum of diversity. So and think about different diversity in that way. Julia, do you have anything to add on this?
Yeah, the only thing I'd add to that is that, you know, organizing an event is incredibly rewarding. I was at a co-working space a little while ago, and a person walked up to me, and I didn't recognize them, but they said that they came to a Startup Weekend event that I helped organize like 4 years ago, and now they're doing their own business. And that had a huge impact on them. And that's just an incredibly rewarding experience. At the same time, it can be super challenging to organize an event. Sometimes, like, there will be a point in the months of organizing the event that there might be a point where you're like, should we even do this? Is it worth it? And so knowing very clearly, like, what is your bottom line? at minimum, if we have this, that's what I minimum need to make the event worth doing. So it could be like we got 6 people and 1 team and they have a powerful experience. That's good enough. That's success. Let's do it. But having that clear in mind will help you then deal with the unforeseen events and be able to cope with them and make adjustments to your plan to have a successful event.
Yes, yes. You couldn't have said it better yourself.
Mhm.
Even myself, that's how I started my entrepreneurship journey from a startup weekend a few years ago. So it gives me joy every time I organize the event and I see the impact on the attendees, because, somebody did it for me and I know how that felt to have that light bulb moment and that weekend. It can be very rewarding to do a startup weekend, but also a lot of work. But if you prepare in advance, give yourself 3 months at least in advance, and have the right hand woman or man to help you, it will go a long way, and it'll be very rewarding. Thank you. Any question do we have?
Yeah, so I was able to jot down a couple questions from the chat, so we'll go through those, and then I think we have some time. If anyone has additional questions, they can always throw them in the chat and we'll get to them. The first question is from Anthony, and it's for Layla. Regarding the size of the team, you mentioned that sometimes your team can get a little small. He just asked sort of what's sort of the minimum you would work with, and how would you sort of deal with a smaller organizing team?
Minimum 2. Once you have a part, like the people who do the heavyweight, and then during the weekend you need more manpower to help out. But the people who do like promotion, the events, reaching out to mentors and the judge and everybody get on board, 2 or 3, it's enough. But make sure during the weekend you will need more people to pitch in. Yeah, even for a few hours, so that the team are not overwhelmed with everything to do themselves.
Perfect. Not sure if you have anything to add there, Julian, regarding
No, I'll
teams?
just be, if you saw my face when she said 2, I was like, but that's, yeah, if you put your organizers in 2 camps in terms of like, there are the day of volunteers who are there to help you on the very day of the event. And then there's the long-term team that's planning for the 2 months, 3 months ahead of time. Then I could see having 2 or 3 people on that 2 or 3 month plan and having like bringing in like maybe 5 more volunteers for like the day of. Then yes, I'm totally on board with that.
Perfect. Yeah, I was going to say something very similar to you, Julian. So awesome. Our next question comes from Brandon, and this is, I guess, sort of a general question. He asked, what is the target of number of participants for a successful event? So I'm not sure if Julian, you have any take on that based on your experience. I'd also be happy to answer from Techstars as well.
Man, I want Nick to answer first if there's a Techstars answer before I say anything.
Good answer. We recommend anywhere between 65 to 125 participants is generally the sweet spot that we find. Of course, depending on your community, that could be a little bit larger, a little bit smaller. I think when we start getting above 125 participants, that's where we might start needing 2 facilitators, or that just sort of brings it up a bit of a notch. So for participant target, I'd recommend between 65 and 125 participants. Not sure if anyone has anything to add there.
I totally agree with that. I think if you go north of 125, things become really difficult, and that would be something to have a serious conversation with somebody at Techstars about if you're going to do that. Then the question becomes like, well, because there's a certain amount of energy that gets in the room when you've got that number of like over 50 people. There's just energy that people feed from each other that's super useful. That said, if you had planned on doing an event of 65 to 100, and then you only have 20 people registered, then you're having a question about like, well, is it worth it to do it? And that is one, you have to look at your own budget and see like, will your budget allow for that to happen? But if it does, then it's a matter of like, that's a personal question of like, does that feel like the time and effort that's going to go into the event to make it happen? Magic can happen with 10 people at an event, So it really is a matter of perspective.
Perfect.
Yeah, and also participants completely different from registrations. So you may have
Yes.
100 and something registered, but participant will be, 40% of that. So don't freak out if you have over 100 people register. You may have sweet spots at 50% if they show up. That will be a great number. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. So our next question comes from Wad, and the question is is it best to categorize participants based on their background when selling tickets, i.e. developer, i.e. startup founder, and how do you handle sort of categorizing your participants during the ticket sale process?
I'm letting Layla go first.
Yeah, I would say from a text
or Nick.
we do recommend that you have a question on your registration page to get a better idea of the participant's background. That will just sort of help you as an organizer be a bit more prepared for what type of profile is coming to your event, and really helps you get a nice snapshot of who's active in your community and what types of profile you'll be having there. So Techstars does offer a rubric for the registration page for your event platform. And in there, we do include a question to kind of identify the background. So yes, I would say it's helpful and it is part of our instruction.
Yeah, it's helpful, and in every weekend they always, all the developer, everybody is in, want them in their team. So it's nice to capture that data before the events happen, so that you know that you're lacking in some skill sets, so you can try to push ticket sales on them. But also you can go further. Our events, they even have refugees option, to for free ticket for them to give them opportunity to be a part of the startup weekend. So you can have different ticket option also for other diverse community to make them included.
Perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, and the thing I add to it is like you've got those categories. You also have other categories you might want to see in terms of like the diversity of your event. And I think that having clear ideas of what different types of communities you want represented at your event can help you then guide your marketing and outreach to see if you're meeting those goals. So yeah.
Exactly. Fantastic. So it looks like our next question is from Bakunda, and she asks, what type of support does Techstars provide to the organizing teams, especially if this is the first event within the country? That's a very good question, and I'd be happy to take that one. So you will have contact with a customer success coordinator, which will either be myself or Sarawi, and we will guide you through all of the resources that we have available. So first and foremost, we have our client resource portal, which is where we house pretty much anything that you'll need to organize the event. As Julian mentioned in the beginning of the webinar, it has a wealth of information there regarding the schedule, all of the email templates for your communication, different checklists, different tasks to make sure that you're on point. So what we do is we orient you with our resource portal. You have check-ins with your customer success coordinator, and we'll always be more than willing to connect you with other organizers in your area that may have some experience they'd like to pass on. So yeah, I would say that's sort of the support from Techstars, beyond the right to use the branding and all of that stuff. You do get the personal support of a customer success coordinator, as well as access to all of the resources, that we've made available to our organizers over the previous years. I'm not sure if Ahmad or Preda, you have anything you'd like to add there?
No, that's
I
it.
love that online guide that I mentioned earlier, including like, I didn't know how to sponsor asking for money, for example. But in the guide that Techstars provides, there's a sample email that you can just fill in of your specific details. And now you have a really good guide of like how to have this conversation with people. So that's true for mentors and judges and all kinds of stuff. So the guides that they provide are super useful. And of course, facilitators.
Exactly. Perfect. I know we'll take just a couple more questions. I know that we do have a couple more slides to get to, so I want to make sure we're able to finish. However, I think this is a fantastic question from Brandon, and this would be for either Julian or Layla. Have you ever needed to prevent a participant from dropping out mid-event? And how would you deal with any type of situation with the participant wanting to drop out? And sorry for
You
being
take it first.
Okay. I'm like, absolutely, that happens. And I'll say before we get to that point, hopefully as a facilitator, a lot of things we speak to and do on Friday night are meant to make that environment as inclusive as possible for people and to get them comfortable in the space and comfortable with each other. It's why we do this icebreaking activity during Friday night. That's why we talk about, safe spaces, and it's why we give them an overview of what's going to happen in the weekend to make people feel comfortable. So I'd say on the outside, if we're doing a really good job on Friday night, that should be less likely to happen. But even so, things happen and people have experiences, and I'd say, I'd say like 30 to 40% of the time, there's a time where I'm having conversation with somebody who's like, this isn't for me, I need to go. And finding out where they're at mentally, finding out like what is driving them, why they initially came to the event, what they're hoping to get out of it, and if that can be achieved by staying, is a conversation that can happen one-on-one with the person. I view it as very important for the organizing team and the facilitator to have a personal contact with each and every person who walks through that door, so we build that relationship. Because at the end of the day, this is all about community building and relationship building. And so we don't want people to leave. That said, sometimes there are circumstances that are outside of the control, and so it may be the best thing for that person to leave if they got some other things going on, or this is not a good emotional space for them to be in right now. Totally understandable. But yeah, short answer is yes, that happens a lot. And the facilitators and organizers can help speak to that.
Excellent.
Yes. Yeah, especially the online events, they're a bit tougher to make sure everybody is on point, because it's online, so you don't have that access to everybody and check everybody where every time, what they're doing, although you have that online space. And so it's tough. I remember our online events in 2020, last year, actually, March, we had 10 team and 7 of them made it. Yeah, so it's kind of a 3 dropout. For personal reason, and also some people they underestimate the work that set up weekend takes, and when you're online you have to do other things and then come to do your work. Yeah, you get people get overwhelmed. But with the physical events, I think the numbers are kind of lower. It's easy to make sure everybody is on point, and to give them the support when you see them that they need. And yeah, so the number is lower for physical events, but online events, they're tough to keep everybody not to drop out. Yeah,
I want to speak to one more thing on that point, by the way. So this is a technical thing. I'm a fan of doing check-in each day of the event, as opposed to just doing registration on Friday night and hoping for the best. And then if you do that, one of the things we want to look at is for the attrition at the event, were there certain demographics that were more likely to drop out of the event? And by tracking that, we can see that. And then if we, as a team, in a postmortem, can look at and see if there was any trends there that we can try and understand why that was the case, and maybe address some issues that we're not seeing. The good thing is we have the contact information for people, so we can actually reach out to them and follow up with them and say, was there a reason that you didn't stay for the end of the event? And that would help us then in future events make better events.
That's fantastic. No, awesome. Yeah, I think we have time for maybe 2 more questions, and we'll jump back to the end of the presentation. So we did have a question from David. If there are already other startup weekend organizers in the same country or city, will we be required to work with them? I will sort of take this to start, and Prada and Ahmad can jump in. We never require you to work with another team. However, we do always encourage, teams that are similar to work together and collaborate. During the approval process, one of the things that I look at is dates of events and how close they are to each other. One thing I would want to avoid is exhausting a city with 3 or 4 different events in the same month that are organized by different people. So we definitely take a look at the dates of the events, the type of event, the experience of the teams, and we always do encourage you to connect with other community leaders in your area. But we will never force you to work with them, but we will always make sure to maintain the integrity of the events, that, you know, they're definitely being spaced out and that we're giving enough support to all of the teams involved. So I'm not sure if anybody else has anything else to add there, but that's sort of my response to that question.
Yeah, quick comment to that one as well. Like, we're looking to Startup Weekend is not like to be an event or a hackathon. It's a platform to bring everybody in, from the community leaders that come from diverse background to the various mentors who are probably entrepreneurs, investors, business people that's come at the events, the judges, the partners, the sponsors. It's a platform to gather the community and get everybody in. So it's just like a way that we think about that. And we don't like to create silo startup weekend communities all around the world. Our job here is to connect everybody else. And this is not just in the same city, in the same country, in the same region, in the same planet as well. Hopefully later we expand and connect planets together. So what we do here is just try to get people to come in together and collaborate. And when we say collaborating, doesn't mean we do one event. It could be we each event focus on a different theme, different dates, different areas, but we try to avoid creating a competition between 2 startup weekend, reaching out to the same sponsors with a different sponsorship tickets or different sales. This is our jobs to make sure this coordinating. We've been operating Startup Weekend for more than like 15 years so far. We never had a problems. The type of people that we attract and we come in, it's the type of people that want to come and collaborate and create more impact to the community. So it's not a problem we faced. It's just time of have a set expectations and better understanding among everybody.
I'll say one place I've seen that actually practically play out often is in the US setting. So I was facilitating an event at a university, and the on-campus university organizing team viewed themselves totally different than the organizing community of the city that they were in. And so there wasn't a whole lot of communication between those two groups, and they didn't see themselves. I think they would have said they were one community in verbiage, but they wouldn't actually acted like that. And so I think one way to help bridge those gaps and bring them together was I was at least able to get them to invite that off-campus organizing team to come to Sunday night presentations and dinner and be part of that experience, so they could help build those bridges across those things. But I see the on-campus, off-campus is a very common divide sometimes.
Yeah, that's true. No, and thank you, Julian and Ahmad. And we'll do one more final question before moving on from Brandon. Do you suggest organizing weekends around specific sectors? For example, EdTech, FinTech, Tech, etc. Not sure if anyone has any particular words here, but I will say that we do suggest this if that's right for your community. I think it's important to really understand, you know, who is coming to the event, what kind of connections you have in your network, as Layla mentioned. That's really important. Do you have enough mentors, judges that are in that field? And is there a need for that specification with your event? We generally recommend newer organizers. Perhaps this is the first event in a city in a lot of years. We generally recommend to go with a generalist approach. That way we don't create any barriers for people who might not feel particularly connected to that specific vertical, but want to take part. So I would say that is an option. It's just depending on the needs of your community. And if you feel that your events would be able to get enough speakers and mentors and judges in that specific field, but it is an option. Yeah.
I have two things.
Please.
One, I think I don't personally have a preference, although I think that in a specific vertical, it may be easier for you to get sponsorship dollars from organizations that are involved in that vertical deeply, because they would see that focus as being an asset to their sponsorship. So if that's a struggle for you, then you might find narrowing to a vertical to make it easier to get sponsors. And then the other one, I've had a lot of experience with events that aren't focused in terms of tech, as far as the focus of what we're doing, as much as who's involved. So like we did an LGBTQIA plus focused event. It's open to everybody, but focused on that on this community, and finding it super rewarding for people who are normally underrepresented to have that presence. There's a one we did in Oakland for Black Male Achievement. That was an amazing event. That also, I think, seeing your own community highlighted in an event can really bring out a different type of event and be a very powerful experience.
Yeah, I wouldn't, yeah, I can't add it better. You know, it's about knowing your community, what it needs. Like most of our events now, we focus on women because, you know, we know that we need more women to start the tech startup. And yeah, so whatever the need in your community, if you think fintech, it's needed, you know, you see the space and, you know, value proposition for that. So go for it. Yeah. Thanks.
Fantastic.
Great. So let me share the last information. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yep.
Great. So yeah, I want to thank you, all of you, Julian, Leila, and everyone that is here for all the amazing tips and questions, contributing with your experience, Julian, Leila, especially our guest for today. So this is what you need to keep in mind to organize your first startup weekend, a summary of what Julian, Leila just said as a tip, and also Ahmad and Nick contributed. So yeah, all this information is in our website as well, that we share in the chat before. So building a team, choosing routes, promoting the event in the community, sourcing local sponsors, managing food. This is what you as an organizer should provide. This is what Techstars support your event by. Program license, access to the event management, pairing your facilitator, your customer success, and connecting to you to a global community of a new experience and community leaders. Stay tuned, come up in May. This is the startup that emerged in the startup weekend that Ahmad mentioned before. You know, there are many more around the world, but this is the ones that we have here. And yeah, we are done. Thank you for your participation. I don't know if someone wants to say something. We have 2 minutes before we finish.
Yeah, I would love if everyone could jot down their favorite tip that they learned in the chat today. It would be really interesting to see sort of what resonated with all of you. But yeah, just from my perspective, apply, please. We'll be sending out a follow-up email with additional instructions for how you can take those first steps to get involved. If you're in the Americas or South America or Asia Pacific, you'll be speaking to me. If you're in Europe, Middle East, Africa, you'll be speaking with my lovely coworker Sarawi. But yeah, I'm very much looking forward to possibly working with all of you here. Awesome.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks. Thanks
Perfect.
also.
Thank you
Thank you
again.
all. Have a great day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Have a lovely day.
Bye. Thanks, guys. Oh, so many thank yous. Love it. Appreciate it. Someone had asked for my LinkedIn, so I will throw it in.
Well, okay, bye, everybody. This was great. See you.
Good to talk to you,
Before
Leila.
you leave,
You too. Bye.
hi. Bye-bye. Hey, Nick, nice to meet you. I'm Victor. If you could share your Instagram or LinkedIn.
Sure, I've just added it to the chat.
Okay, perfect. Bye-bye.